And joining us now is retired Major General Mark Graham. He is the Director of Vets for Warriors. General, welcome.
General, thank you. Last time we had you on Capitol Report, you talked about a program together with Rutgers that helps veterans who are dealing in crisis, a 24-hour hotline that helps them. But I want you to stay with us and have this separate conversation on Capitol Report about a larger question. And the question really goes to how we, as a society, not just in New Jersey but across this country, treat our veterans. Why don't we treat our veterans with more respect and dignity and consideration that they deserve?
Well, I think many people have good intentions, but I think sometimes bureaucracy gets in the way. I think public-private partnerships are sometimes the best way to go, because veterans can then see not only is their government supporting them, but yet the people are too, the people in the communities. They're seeing that more and more than they did in Vietnam, for sure. But I think what they'll see is that we're bringing people together, not only our elected officials and those that voted for them, but those in every community. I mean, years ago when you had World War II and other wars, everyone was collecting cans and tires and everything else. But there's something to unify the veterans and the communities is key. And I think by bringing them together, we can do that through public-private partnerships.
Yeah, but there's something else I want to get to here. I mean, I'm a big Yankee fan. Raf is as well, and our boss Neil Shapiro is the biggest Yankee fan. And one of the things we've talked about is, in the middle of the seventh inning, at every Yankee game, a military hero, his or her family is there, he or she is recognized right before God Bless America, right? You know exactly what happens. And everyone's there, and the American flag is there, and they honor that vet. But the VA hospitals have failed those vets miserably. And the disconnect there for me and for millions of Americans is confusing. How could that happen? How does that happen?
Yeah. Great question, and an answer no one likes to hear is it happens over time. It just builds and builds and builds. And I think you got to cut through all that. You've got to have a way for people to get access to care, early access to care. You know, calling up a crisis line, you know, we need a crisis line. But why aren't we helping before they get to the crisis point? Why aren't we helping them sooner? Have a way they don't have to wait weeks and weeks and sometimes months to get into mental health care, if you will, or other care. But to share that. If you have a VA system, let's share that load. And I know there's a program called the Choice Program that the VA started that I think cracks the door open to letting military veterans go to other care, civilian-based care. That goes back to the public-private piece. Let's do this together. I mean, you've got this big VA system, but they can't handle it all. So we got to work together here.
Now, General, you're a patriot. You don't like to criticize the government. You don't like to criticize the Department of Defense, obviously.
You picked up on that, yeah.
But the reason that we had you here the first time is because the program that you run, it's such a great program, such great service to veterans. The funding was cut by the Department of Defense, and Steve and I could not fathom why they would do that. And we asked you, and you've been in the Army, what, for 35 years? 35 and you yourself didn't know. So it makes us wonder, you know, how you can, you know, bureaucracy can be silly, can be foolish, but how can it be this foolish?
Well, you know, we also wanted to do this program for the VA had us doing a pilot program, and they decided not to continue a pilot program called Vet to Vet Talk. Yeah. So we've merged veterans back into Vets for Warriors, thanks to the state and the funding to allow us to keep doing that.
And it was the state that put up the money when the feds took it away. But did they put the money up for every year or just for 1 year?
We don't know the answer to that. We know it's for
I'm sorry for interrupting, but there's the potential that you and your colleagues, who've given so much to our country, may have to go hat in hand again begging for money to keep a program going, to keep veterans from committing suicide 22 plus a day, 22 veterans. And excuse me for saying this, General, but you said it on the last program about your own son.
Right.
You lost your own son to suicide.
And another son
to combat. Yeah. What exactly would it take for policymakers and others to say, wait a minute, we owe?
Yeah. Well,
I know I'm asking the wrong person.
Yeah.
We are asking the wrong person.
But we want to get your sense of it.
But I will tell you, the cost of this, when you really look at how many are out there and could call, is minuscule. You know, I hate to say it, but it's pocket change. It's change that falls out of your pocket when you sit on the sofa.
Does it anger you?
It does. I mean, it frustrates me to no end. You know, and I have a long fuse, but this really bothered me that when we found this out that this was going to get cut, and so we've got, you know, the chains are off, and now we can go. The state has been wonderful in New Jersey to recognize the importance of the program. So now we'll go after private funding as well as supplement it, because our goal is for this program to continue to grow.
Can citizens watching right now on public television do anything to be helpful?
They can go to Vets for Warriors, vets4warriors.com, and they can see what we do. There's a donate button there as well.
Quick question before I let you out of here. Raf and I have been talking to people about leadership, and so I need to ask you this. 35 years in the military as a leader, what's the #1 leadership lesson you've learned?
You have to be able to follow before you can lead. You have to be able to know that, you know, you're as important as the next person, man or woman, standing next to you as you charge a hill or as you get into a tank or a howitzer crew. You know, you're one of many, and if you're not willing to do it, how can you ask someone else to do it?
Biggest leadership challenge you face?
Bureaucracy.
Thank you, General.
Yeah, thank you for having me.